Hey, this is basically an answer key to my homework, mainly because, let's just say there were some students that may have not done the greatest when it comes to this homework, and particularly probably want an answer key when it comes to this. So this is our answer key for last week's homework. Last week's homework was talking about this idea of verifying and visualizing some math ideas. We would like to for you to look at number 2, where we're talking about Wingstop. We're talking about buying some certain stuff, and it helps us to just underline or highlight some things. You want to buy some things at Wingstop with my friends. We have this called a bulker bundle, which costs around 20 bucks. And then we have fries that cost maybe around $5. It says the only problem I have is I have around $65 for my group of 4 friends. The question is asking, what are some combinations of food without going over? And it says, show your work and list all possible combinations. This is a pretty difficult problem, mainly because it's asking us so many things. So here's what I would suggest. I would suggest listing out different combinations one step at a time for us to figure out, hey, what can I do with $65? Here's what I would recommend. I recommend looking at the biggest ones first. So this is a tip. The tip when it comes to like the math is, well, clearly when you buy something, you want to buy probably the biggest thing first. So look at the biggest thing first. So when I look at the biggest thing first, I'm considering the bundle. I'm going to consider maybe just buying one of them. I'm going to write down as number 1, buying one bundle. One bundle will cost me around $20. What I'm going to do is that, well, if I spent $20, I have to ask myself how much I have left. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to subtract 65 minus 20 to get me $45. Now I have to ask myself, how many fries would that be? If I'm trying to buy as many things as I can without going over, I have to ask myself how many times I would buy fries that cost $5. Luckily, because it's $45, I'm going to count by fives. Once I count by fives, I realize that that is going to be 9 fries. So luckily, I have one bundle and 9 fries. This leads me to the first point, which is what we're going to call 1, 9. Now, the reason why I call it 1, 9 is because it'll help us in the longer run define what x and y could be. I'm going to let x be the number of bundles. Because we let this be the number of bundles, I'm going to let y be the number of fries. Sounds pretty simple. So I'm going to let this be the number of bundles and the number of fries. And we officially have one of them. Let's think of the next one. Let's say I wanted to buy another bundle, right? It seemed like I had a lot left over for the fries. So this time I'm going to buy 2 bundles. This time I have to ask myself, well, how much does 2 bundles cost? Well, in this case, since one bundle costs 20, it seems that 2 bundles is, well, I just add 20 plus 20, which is 40. I ask myself, okay, how much money do I have? I take the 65, I subtract it by 40. I get $25. Well, now that I have $25, I can count one more time. How many fries would that be? 5, 10, 15, 20, 25. So it seems that it's just going to be just 5 fries. I'm going to put 5 fries. I'm going to write this a little bit better. This is 5 fries. Or I can write this as 2, 5. Let's consider some more combinations. We're going to do number 3. Well, let's say I wanted to buy 3 bundles. It still seems that I bought a lot of fries, so why not just 3 bundles? Well, if one bundle is 20, two bundles is 40, I add another 20. That's going to be $60. I'm going to calculate how much I have left. 65 minus $60. I subtract that 2, that's $5. Hey, which I can get just one fry. Which leads me to 3, 1. Notice that I'm keeping track of the points, and it also helps us to just underline them too. Here's 1, 9, 2, 5, 3, 1. There might be one last one where, let's just say we didn't want any wings at all. So with this one comes option number 4. I apologize. Option number 4 is when, let's say I didn't want to buy any wings. 0 bundles. Well, if I didn't spend any money, that's $0. In this case, I have to have $65 left. 65 minus 0, that's 65. Which luckily, I'm going to count by 5s. How much would that be? 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50, 55, 60, 65. I'm going to count all these up, and luckily, once I count them all up, that's going to be 13 fries. You can also just divide 65 by 5 using a calculator. With that being said, we officially have our last point, 0, 13. Again, I'm going to highlight it so that we can signify that this is a new point. Now that we have our few points, we're going to label them. So luckily, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this graph and number them. So 1, 2, 3, and it keeps on going. Unfortunately, my pen is a little bit too thick for the digital writing, so I'm going to just mark them off by ones. So luckily, I'm just going to go 13. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So I know that my dot is going to be up here. That's the first dot. I counted because I went 0 for x, while y was 13. That was the first dot. Let's look at the second dot. The second dot is 1, 9. So in this case, one bundle, which is going to be here, I'm going to count 9. So luckily, I'm going to count again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Just like right here. I look at the next dot. It says 2, 5. Here's 2. So I'm going to count it again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Look at the next one. 3, 1. Right here. And that's basically it. Those are the 4 dots that we considered. What I'm now going to do is that I'm going to luckily just line them all up in a straight line, just like this. And then luckily, what I can do for my tool is that I can just straighten it out just like this. That's my line. Now, we have to figure out the next part to this thing, which is asking us to show the slope-intercept and standard form of the equation. This is why this problem gets a little bit more trickier, but luckily we're going to try to write each one. Slope-intercept. Slope-intercept, if you remember, was written out like this. Y equals to mx plus b. We need to figure out what m and b would stand for. I'm going to look at m to start with. I'm going to look at these dots right here, and I'm going to ask myself, well, m is related to slope, right? So m is about slope. And if I remember anything, clearly anything about slope, it's talking about the change. So I'm asking, how am I going to go from one dot to another? I can see here that I can go maybe to the right, and I can go down 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'm going to write those down because it always helps us. I'm going to go right 1, and I'm going to go down 4. So once I am able to write these down, I can write them in my slope-intercept form. Y would equal to this fraction. Remember that the fraction, the y goes on top, so that's why it's -4 because I go down. Well, because I go to the right, it's +1. I'm going to leave it as x. While right here, for the next part, which is asking for b, b is the beginning. So I'm going to look at my line right here, and I have to ask, well, what does it look like it begins? It looks like it keeps on going right here. So I know that this is going to be my b. So I'm going to label that say that this is my y-intercept. It's where it begins. And I know that I labeled it as a point. It's 0, 13. Knowing that, I'm going to put plus that particular y value, plus 13. That was the slope-intercept. I'm going to highlight it so that we can identify it. Slope-intercept is this whole thing. I'll just do 1. Now that we have this one, we need to figure out the last one, which is talking about standard form. Standard form was definitely the one that maybe not a lot of people remember, but the reason why we're doing it is so that we can get comfortable with remembering, well, why are we doing these in the first place? Why are we making it so that we can have both the fries and this graph? I'm going to remember what x and y stand for. I'm going to write down the typical form of the standard form, which is this. It's going to be ax plus by equals to c. We need to identify what each of these letters mean. X is the bundles. So I'm going to write that down. X was the bundles. So I'm going to call that B, while, Y was the fries, or F in this case. So if I'm talking about all this money in the first place, that probably means that we're relating something about the prices of the fries and the wings. If X is the number of bundles, I'm going to look at the problem, and I'm going to remember anything that we were identifying with the wings. It was $20. So because it was $20, we're going to copy down A as 20. We're going to keep it as X. While we're going to look at the next one, which is B. I need to find the price out for Y. It was fries, so I'm looking at the problem. I'm looking, and I see that it says fries cost around $5. Because of that, we can put plus 5y. Now, we're almost done with this problem. The one thing is to figure out what C is. Luckily, we were talking about, well, we have food, we have money. The only problem is I only have $65, and this guy's rich, so clearly this all has to sum up to 65, because that was what this slope-intercept was talking about, right? It was talking about what are we doing with our money, and therefore this is our standard form. This officially establishes what we wanted to do with number 2, where you want to think of different combinations that you want to do in order to get your solution. And that's basically it for this question number 2.